Hit it.
All right, so this is episode 81. For anybody that's a fan of the podcast, you guys must be pumped. We're putting these out like once or twice a week, so this is awesome. And Jake Winder joining us. Thanks, Jake, for joining again. Just to give a little bit background for maybe people who haven't listened to some of your podcasts before, you come from like the pole vault family. You're a stud 18 plus vaulter, and this year you started your own club, which is awesome. I know we've talked a lot throughout the year. It was kind of building up and kind of exceeding your expectations. And now this whole coronavirus thing hit. How have you been handling the situation, Jake?
Well, I mean, this is like the absolute worst time to open up a small business. That's for sure. It's crazy, man. I mean, we worked so hard to get everything taken care of with the club. And we ran into snag after snag after snag and worked really, really hard to get it up and running. And we've been running in our facility for like 5 months, I think, maybe going on 6 months. And then it was like 2 days. Like I remember calling you and just being like, hey, what are you going to do? And then you're like, I'm staying open. And I was like, all right, well, I'll stay open too.
Yeah.
And then I called, and then it was like 2 days, bam, all gone. See you later.
Yeah.
Lights are off. Nobody's allowed in.
Right.
And then it's just been a ghost town ever since. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's sad whenever I go over there. I actually don't go over there that much because it kind of makes me a little bit sad. And like, not a big fan of the whole situation, but it is what it is, man. We're doing our part as community members, and that was my big thing is I want to make sure that I'm doing my part to, stop the spread and to, I don't know, just operate a business responsibly. I think that's the biggest thing is once it became, I thought it was going to be a responsible thing to do. We were going to cut our numbers in half. We were going to do instead of 1 2-hour session with 10 kids, we were going to do 2 1-hour sessions with 5 kids. Okay. And I thought that was responsible. And we were sanitizing. We had a quarantined area for poles, so if you touch the pole, you got to go put it in the quarantined area. But, it just, and then boom, we put in all that work to rearrange our system and things and our schedule. And
if you think about the timeline, like you said, it's like we talked on the phone and it was like, nah, we'll stay open. It's like everything, and I still feel this today, everything changes every single day. Yeah. Like the thought process, it was like at first like, oh, well, this only really affects old people. So, we don't have to worry. We're coaching, young, healthy athletes,
Right.
And then like little by little, it was like, even a couple of days later after talking to you, I closed. And it was like, I got phone calls from coaches who were like, hey, is this serious? And I'm like, it looks like it, you know what I mean? And like Seriously. You said, you want to do the responsible thing. You don't want to be that guy that stays open and has like cops knocking on the door and you get in trouble, or God forbid someone gets sick at your club,
Yeah. And no joke. I was over mopping the floor. Mm-hmm. I've already cleaned the club like 15 times because I'm so bored.
Yeah.
But I was mopping the floor and a cop came up and was like, and was like, hey, what's going on? And I was like, I swear I'm just mopping up the floor. And he was like, okay, just making sure that, you're not operating, any business. And you said that there were like CrossFit gyms or something that were getting like $1,000 fines in New Jersey or something.
Yeah. So I guess a gym that was in my town that my club is in, Fairfield, they tried to stay open that week and the cops showed up and they're like, hey, if you don't shut down, you're getting $1,000 fine. You can be arrested, And so it's serious. And that's why I'm sometimes like, I get it, like as a small business owner, if this is how you make a living, some people are probably worried that, oh, God, I'm going to go out of business, or how am I going to pay the rent? And so you try to do like stuff like, oh, let's have secret practices. And it's like, dude, you're going to get busted. And how is that going to look? And then also, I mean, I think the bigger thing, and I think why, so early on, like I reached out to you, your dad, your brothers, and had them on the podcast, wanted to talk to them. it's about being a leader. You know, being a coach, like I love in the pole vault, we all get so technique nerd out, you know, and we just want to talk about technique, and then we become so almost like religious about technique that it's like, well, I can't talk to Jake because he coaches differently than me. But it's about being a leader. And what kind of a leader are you if you're doing these secret practices and you're trying to do shady stuff and whatever? It's
Yeah.
like, listen, it is what it is, and we have to deal with it, accept what's happened, and start to move on. Like we were talking about before the podcast, you know, I've had people reach out to me, and they're still like, they're kind of hoping for spring track, you know. And
It's not happening.
how do you approach that, Jake, when people are reaching out to you, let's say about spring track? You know, what kind of conversations are you having with them?
I mean, I sent out an email to my parents, all the parents at the club and all the club members, and was like, hey, you know, the only thing that I know about this thing is that it continues to shatter timelines and expectations.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
so that's all we really know, like, is like, you know, you ask anybody, hey, what about this, what about this, the most elite scientists and professionals, they will tell you we don't really know, you know.
right.
So that's the continual thing that we hear over and over and over again. And right now, you know, people in Illinois haven't really been approaching me about spring track, because I think that the writing's on the wall. I think that they
Yeah.
understand that the writing's on the wall. The IHSA, which is our governing body for
Mhm.
sports in Illinois, they have, like, I don't know, I've heard this from other people. I don't know if this is for real, but they have like talked about, yeah, we're going to extend the season into June or whatever. And I mean, that's a really nice idea, and it makes you look, you know, nice to the public that you're trying to put up an effort, which is really
Yeah.
cool. But at the same time, I just don't think that's going to work. Like, what do you do if you're a high school coach and because I'm a teacher,
Yeah.
so I'm part of the teachers union. So if you're a high school coach and it's like, hey, come June, where they're proposing that they start that spring season, like, what if you know, it's like, no, man, I'm on vacation. Like, this is when I go on vacation with my family, so I'm not going to coach during June. So what do they just fire the coach? You know,
Right.
it's like, they have a lot of logistical hurdles that they would have to go over before they were able to have some sort of spring season during June. Which, you know, what we have done is I've reached out to Mike Cockerham and Brian Carell
Mhm.
about, like, hey, let's get like a Midwest Vault League going or
Yeah.
something, you know, like,
Yeah.
and you and I have talked about that all the time.
Yeah.
Like that would be something that would be really, really cool. But the thing is like, are you going to put forth all this effort? Like, I want the, you know, USATF sanction, and you pay for
Mhm.
that, and you schedule all these meets, and then the chances are, like I said, this thing just continues to blow up
Right.
expectations and timelines. So like, is the work that you're going to put forth going to be worth it in the end? And I don't know. So what we're doing is we have I think starting in start well, Junior Olympics is gone now, so that's gone. We were going to
Mhm.
participate in that. So I think at the end of June we have a meet every weekend for the kids, for the athletes, if they want to join.
Yeah.
um you know, so in July they could compete all the way through July, and I have 4 or 5 track meets, you know. And you know, if that is even possible, but I think it's
Right.
all going to be like private meets, and I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to be like a full blown track meet. I think it's going to
Right.
be, okay, we can have a pole vault meet here, you
Yeah.
know. And we might even have to limit, like, we've even talked about, are we going to have to limit flights? Like, say you have a flight of 10 kids, you know, because we can't have a million people right off the bat just, hey, we're going to come back to normal, and then everybody just back to normal.
Well,
No, that's not going to happen,
right.
you know.
And I think that's the thing that I think a lot of pole vault coaches and club coaches have to start to think about is yeah, when we go back to normal, I don't think it's like, hey, you can just have full sessions. I mean, one of the things that kind of scared me is like last week when the NFL doctor announced, he's like, I don't know if we can start the season in September. I was
That's
like, oh
wild.
my God. Yeah, I'm like, wow, if the NFL can't start in September, but I would keep this in mind for people. It's like I was kind of like freaking out about it a little bit and talking to someone. They're like, yeah, but Branko, remember, they're talking about an NFL season where there's 70,000 fans in the stands. There's a team of over 100 athletes, and if you're running a practice with 5 people, that's probably going to be okay. You know what I mean? And I think
Right.
that's initially when we start to get back. It might have to be one-on-one lessons at first. It might have to be smaller groups until you can go full tilt. And then like you even brought up, like with the meets, it's hard to plan things right now because you don't know when you can have a full-blown meet. Like I've had my meet
Right.
in the summer where we have 100 competitors and then there's about 130 spectators plus the people working the meet, And so it's like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I've
don't
had
know.
people contact me about that. They're like, Branko, are you going to do pole vault club championships this summer? And I'm like, listen, like right now, today, I can't give you that answer. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But it's like, I don't know. Like, if I can, I will, but I just can't give people that answer right now.
So do you have like a reentry like plan or something, like whenever this whole thing, like, because whenever they, I don't know if they're just going to like release the hounds and it's like, hey, just figure it out, or if there are going to be like restrictions, like, okay, we're going to allow businesses to operate, but no groups of 50 people or more, or
Yeah,
so
so I guess I'm trying to see and wait. Like, what are they gonna do when we come back? Like what are there gonna be the options? Because I almost feel like initially they might even do something where it's like certain businesses can start to open back up, and gyms I
right.
think are
And
gonna.
then that's whenever I'm like, I hope we don't get lumped into gyms, because we're not, I mean, our numbers are so small compared to like a fitness center or something, you
Right.
know?
And well, so let me even, this is kind of going back and we'll go back to this point. I think this is where, I almost feel like people don't understand the magnitude. And I feel like, can you still see me? You're good?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, it was,
Yeah.
yeah, you're
But
good.
I almost feel like people don't understand the magnitude of this because I feel like sometimes like you talk to certain people who are in certain professions or certain businesses and they're like, well, I'm good and that's just really not that important. And it's like going back to even high school sports, I think people don't realize that every state has some kind of governing body, whether it's a non-for-profit or for-profit. I know in New Jersey, we have the NJSIA, which is a non-for-profit and runs all the state tournaments for every sport.
Yeah.
I think people don't get. It's like I was like doing the math in my head. I mean, like I think they bring in something like $400,000 just for the entries for just track, spring track, right?
Wow.
Now, if you
Yeah.
think about the spectators that are coming in to those spring track events, $10 a person. I mean, at some of our group meets and stuff like that, there could be well over 1,000 spectators.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of money there, and there's people that are employed through this, company or business, right? And even like you think about our businesses, it's like look, all these businesses have to go up and running. I mean, I listened to last night. They had the owner of the Houston Rockets on, Fertitta, I think is his last name. I've
Okay.
seen him on a bunch of shows and stuff. But he owns the Houston Rockets. He runs casinos, restaurants all over the country. I mean, this guy employs so many people. And you could say, well, casinos aren't essential, and they're not. But you know how
Right.
many people make a living off of that?
I
And I'm
know.
and I'm not talking about like the casino owner. It's like the guy who mops up the building. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's like there has to be a way like where everyone's thinking about how does everybody get back in? It can't just be like, okay, well, these jobs are important, so let's get them back up and running, but these jobs aren't. I mean, every job is important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like if the corona was to be in one place though, it would be creeping around a casino, like a dirty casino, those knobs, like you got to touch all those
Oh my,
levers and stuff.
yeah. Well,
Dude,
of
you
course.
open up the casino and who's going to the casinos? The older population, man.
Yeah.
Don't mess with opening up those casinos too early or that
Oh,
corona is going to be kicking right back up, man.
yeah, yeah.
Mark my
Well,
words.
And I saw a funny meme. It was like they had like 6 feet apart designated areas waiting for the ATM machine, but the
Yeah.
ATM machines were like 2 feet apart. So it's like, oh, it only happens this way, not that way.
Right. Hey, so are you hitting the gloves and the mask when you're going into places, or are you just masking it?
So I mean, so I've kind of been going to the grocery store like every 2 weeks. So I just go one
Yeah.
massive run, and just so
Right.
the last time I went, I was not wearing masks and gloves. I did like, yeah, I took
Dude.
alcohol with me. I like
Okay.
rubbed down the shopping cart, rubbed down my hands, and then when I got back to the car, wiped my hands with alcohol and stuff like that.
Just like a bottle of alcohol?
I had rubbing alcohol.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't have yeah.
Just
I didn't
walking
like
into the
pour like
grocery
Bud Light
store.
all over myself.
Just walked to the grocery store.
Imagine you get pulled over, like, sir, are you drinking or driving? No, this is the only way I can sanitize my hands.
Right. You just pouring vodka all over the place.
Dude, wait, I literally saw that on CNN the other night. On the bottom, they have like the tweets for people watching. They're like, if you don't have rubbing alcohol or Purell, could you use vodka to sanitize?
Yeah.
Oh,
Seriously, man. Yeah, I mean, I went to the grocery store the other day, gloves and a mask, the full get up, and then it was fine. The majority of people are wearing masks, but the problem is 2 weeks ago, I went to the grocery store, and I mean, nobody was wearing any masks. I had my mask in my pocket, and I was like, all right, I'm going to put it on. And then I just got too embarrassed. I was like, I'm 32 years old. Am I seriously going to be embarrassed to put this mask on? But I didn't put it on. And then I'm walking in like where they have like the eggs and stuff in this one aisle. And I start going down, and there's this older gentleman that is coming this way. And he's just, and he's like dragging his leg behind him, like pushing the cart. I was like, this guy for sure's got it, man. He 100% has it. What? And I just turned my cart around. I was like, I'm not messing with that, man. I hope he's doing okay. But
you definitely are like hyper aware of your surroundings. And it's like, one, you don't want anybody to think that you're sick or you're gonna get them sick. But then it's like, you're like, yo, I don't want anybody getting too close to me, because I definitely am conscious of that. And then what you said, it's like, me too. I'm like, dude, like I don't want to wear a mask, you know, like that. I don't think I look
it's
good.
Like embarrassing.
You know? Yeah. And it's weird, but even everyone has like those little kind of insecurities like that. And I think just right now we have to all just overcome that and just be like, okay, this is what we got to do right now,
Yeah.
And listen, hopefully, like everybody's saying, if we all do what we're supposed to do, we get through this quicker,
Right.
But man, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you saw Dr. Fauci one point said, like, it's probably a good idea to never shake hands again.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. You know what, though? If you want to get over that mask thing, this is what I did. You get a hat, just normal hat.
Yeah.
You get the first time I went into the grocery store with the mask, I put the mask on, I put the hat on, I put my sunglasses on and my AirPods in, and put on, like, I don't know, I think I've been listening to Snoop Dogg a lot, like going through the grocery store. And I just was in my own planet, and I was like, nobody can even see who I am.
Yeah.
And I had the Snoop Dogg going.
You look a little badass like that. You look a little badass,
Right.
You look
so
like
I was just
rob the grocery store.
Yeah, right. But now I just kind of, it's whatever now, man. I mean, basically, like I said, in Chicago, like everybody's wearing masks, and in LA, it's like the law now. You have to wear it.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
I know it's listen, I think it's a wild time, and I think, again, it's going back to like pole vault. This is why, I've heard from a lot of people different things, and they're talking about stuff. And I think the best thing I heard from someone was, I was talking to Mike Lorick, who his guy is actually number 1 in the country, right? He jumped 17.4, high school boy, and he did it at Reno. And he's like, listen, he goes, I mean, it would have been nice to have a spring season. We really would have liked to win the California state title. He was also close to either the state record or his high school record. I forget what he was saying. And he's like, we would have liked to break that. But on the other hand, we feel very fortunate that he was able to jump that at Reno, because it was the one meet he had all year. You know what I
That's
mean?
exactly like my guy,
Yeah.
my guy Andrew Saloga. He came out at Reno and jumped 5 meters.
Okay.
Comes out, jumps 5 meters, signs with Kansas, and I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. Like, because I
Yeah.
mean, we put in a lot of work, man. We
Yeah.
put in a lot of work. The other big guy that I got jumping at the club too is Zach Fry. He jumped 490 or 488 or six. I think it was like 16 even.
Mhm.
And he signed with Louisville, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, cool. Like, because that's something that is super, super important. And we actually recommend, like, in the way that we do it, my dad always told us, like, hey, get that big bar in indoors. Try to get that big bar in
Yeah.
indoors, because regardless of if there's a pandemic or if you're just jumping in Illinois in the spring, you're probably not going to have any weather, like,
Yeah.
so try to get that bar in indoors when you got that controlled climate, and you can do that. So I'm very thankful. There are some people though that at the club that it's been heartbreaking, because, well, those two they got first and second at state last year. And
Mm.
then this year, it's like, the guy who got second, is not going to have a chance to win a state
Right.
championship. And the guy who got first isn't going to have a chance to repeat, a state
Yeah.
championship and at least compete for it,
Right.
So it's been tough, but we had some kids that got some big bars indoors and have been able to solidify spots on in college teams and
Yeah.
things like that. But I don't know, so I guess that's where what are you like? All right, so obviously we don't know when this is going to end.
Yeah.
What do you tell a kid right now? Do you tell a kid to just keep going 100 miles an hour?
So, I mean, we like literally like the day after I closed, I think it was like March 16th. It was a Monday. And
Mm-hmm.
then that Tuesday, me and Calvin, one of my coaches, he's a former athlete of mine, we put together this like workout video. They're just
Yeah, I saw
at-home
that.
workouts, yeah. And it's like it has like a beginner, novice, and advanced section. So you pick out what exercises are doable for you, and you do it. And we put out the workout plan. And and I've been talking to some kids back and forth. I mean, one of my guys, my guy who jumped 15 indoors, he actually like as soon as this was all going down, he like bought a bunch of at-home gym equipment. So he's got a squat
Oh,
rack in his
wow.
garage now. So he's going like ham.
Right.
And I think a couple things. I think one, it's up to the individual, right? Like what they want. Also, we don't know what environment or what access they have to equipment, or even just what's going on with their families. Like some kids or athletes of any age, they might be going through a tough time where right now they're worried about, how are they going to keep food on the table? How are they going to, keep up with all their bills? Maybe that's more important right now, and they need to focus on that. Maybe they have a sick family member or loved one that they have to focus on that,
Right.
and then for those that are either bored out of their mind or they want to train, like Brendan, my 15 footer. I mean, he's going hard. He sends me some videos every couple of days, like, hey, what do you think about this? And he even like he got a pole from the high school, when things were shutting down, and he just does like little drills in his backyard, you know what I mean, and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's like
Right.
cool. Like I will like I think the best I've ever heard when I was a young coach, I used to get really frustrated. And I don't know if your dad's ever talked to you about this or if you've ever experienced this personally, but a lot of times as coaches, right, we kind of get excited. Like the higher someone starts to jump, and I don't even think it's so much the height, but as further they go along in training years, we get excited to add the new wrinkles and creases to the training. That it's like, ooh, we can finally do this drill, or we can finally do this exercise, and that's going to take you to the next level, and we're going to really create that like perfect vault.
Right.
But the thing is, it's like what happens a lot of times, either people end up graduating, moving on, they stop jumping, or they get burnt out. And so it's like you got to that point where you're like, oh, I was really excited to add this new wrinkle, and now you don't get to do it as a coach. And someone said to me, they're like, Branko, you can't want it more than the athlete. And
Right.
although,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, and although I'm like, well, I'm always going to want it more than the athlete, so I'm just going to keep doing that way. But I have to accept or come to terms with some people aren't going to want to go as hard as you'd like them to, and you have to accept that as a coach and meet them where they are, and I think
For
that's
sure.
really important. Like I just posted, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, I posted one asking everybody their philosophy, right, their coaching philosophy, and then I posted our club philosophies. I put a club philosophy, a meet philosophy, and a technique philosophy. And
Saw that. That's cool.
yeah, and one of the things that I think is huge is like, I want to meet everyone at all ages, ability levels, and help you enjoy this sport however you want to enjoy it. Some people enjoy it by going as hard as they can to see how high they can jump. Some people enjoy it at a lower level. It's extracurricular. And I think during this time, you have to meet your athletes where they're at. If somebody wants like a light at-home workout and they want to keep doing a little something, stay active. If other people aren't wanting to do stuff, I don't want to pressure anybody. I even actually sent out a text. I was like, hey, Calvin was wondering if you guys would like to do a group training session on Zoom. And I texted a bunch of people, and some people said yes, but a lot of people, said no. And that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I have to pressure anybody into doing anything. I think it's up to the athlete. And that's the great thing about our sport is, although we have a group dynamic, you know how it is at the club, like high energy, when you have the runways full and everybody's working together, it's awesome. But at the same time, it still is an individual sport. So it's like,
right. Yeah,
think of it like an MMA gym, right? For every gym that has maybe a Conor McGregor, they probably have 50 people that are not at Conor McGregor's level and not maybe even training that hard, but they all are there. And as a coach, you have to figure out what you need to give each person,
Yeah, no, for sure. Sorry, I'm like echoing. Well, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear
you
cool. Fine, yeah.
All right, it stopped. Yeah, so for us, it's like, so the reason I asked you this is because Luke, my brother, who is a 560 pole vaulter, and he was getting ready to have a really pretty solid outdoor season. He was stringing together good practices, and then this hit. And then, he kind of texted me and texted my dad and my other brother, Josh, and was like, hey, what should I do? What should I do? And I was like, man, I don't know. Like, if you wake up every single day during this thing and you and all you think about is pole vaulting, you're probably going to drive yourself up the wall, like, and it was similar to that first week. Whenever we were closed, I was just thinking of every single possible thing that I could do to I'm going to, do this for the business to help it. And I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do that. And then like slowly I was just like, and then I was just like, dude, you got to accept that right now the pause button has been hit on the entire world basically. And you have to accept the fact that it's like, dude, you can do some stuff, but if you just wake up every single day and you just think like, okay, this is going to be over soon. This is going to be over soon. This is going to be over soon. It's just going to blow up, man.
Yeah,
you're going to blow yourself
up. You're setting
up.
yourself up for disappointment at that point.
Right. So I told, we kind of all, talked, and my dad told Luke, hey, just take some time off. Take some time off. Regroup. How many times in our lifetime has there been a time where the pause button has been hit and there's really no big consequences for taking a good amount of time off right now? Like if you took a month off right now or 2 months off right now, it's like, the consequences are not that high because guess what? There's probably not going to be meets in the summer, like, so it's like, what are you jumping for? Like, are you going to, so anyway, so we talked about that. And I think that for me personally, I think, you pick a couple things every day. You pick maybe 1 or 2 things and you're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to touch base with this. But if you try to stay in perfect condition, you're going to go nuts. You might go nuts, so stay 2 weeks out from perfect condition, so whenever we come back, you're 2 weeks out from being back to where you were, like just stay in that kind of condition, eat that way, sleep that way, and train so that you don't get out of shape. And whenever we come back, boom, you're back in 2 weeks, like nothing even happened. But if you wake up every day and you're sad and you just,
Yeah.
oh, this is a bad day, and I can't believe this happened to me, and this, that, and the other, dude, you're going to be blown out by the time this thing gets done.
Yeah.
And like, maybe there's an old injury that you have, like that you went through the whole off season and the whole indoor season with this injury. Dude, this is an incredible time to let that injury heal.
Yeah.
Like, let that injury heal, let your body heal, let your brain heal, and then reestablish your connection with the event, and reestablish your sometimes, because people can be addicted to it. And I think that right now is whenever you find like, whoa, I don't know how to function without this, like, what do I do? Who am I if I can't pole vault? And especially the further you go on in pole vaulting and the higher you go, the more you start to get addicted to that success, and you get addicted to jumping well. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, it's just taken away from you.
Right.
And then, okay, well, maybe I should be able to be myself, at all times, instead of only whenever I can pole vault,
Right.
like, so reestablish your connection with the vault, and make sure it's a healthy connection with the event. And then you'll come back from this thing, refreshed, so that's like, so I'm on the border, I'm on the fence. Like, do you tell a kid, like, you better keep going or else you're gonna suck when this thing's all
No,
over,
I
or
definitely
do
don't
you
think that.
say, or do you say, dude, take this time, regroup? I think probably the answer is somewhere in the middle,
Yeah,
on
no,
that.
I like your mentality of being like, hey, just make sure you're only like 2-3 weeks out from being tip top shape.
Right.
Like,
And that's what we did. Like, whenever I was training, like after college, and like Luke's training right now, like whenever we're in our off season, and I'm sure that like Mondo and Kendricks, and I don't know this for sure, but
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that this is how basically a lot of people do it. Is, do they really have like an off season where they take like 3 months and don't do anything? Probably not. They probably stay within 2 to 3 weeks of being in good enough condition to be, you know,
right.
80%, 90% of their peak,
Yeah, because I'm sure you've seen, whether it's a teammate when you were jumping or even just coaching, where, yeah, if you just go 2-3 months straight not doing anything, dude,
Mm,
you're gonna
no
see that
bueno.
person's like, that don't look like the same person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that idea of like, even in the off season, it's like, okay, maybe you don't like grind with weights. Maybe you just do body weight stuff. Maybe,
Right.
you just go for a run every once in a while. Just something to stay a little bit fit. And like you said, be 2-3 weeks out. I think that's huge. The other thing
Yeah.
that I really felt strongly about that you just said was like, even before this whole coronavirus thing, I agree with you. I think a lot of people get addicted to jumping, or they get addicted to training, and their whole like being as a person is like, unfortunately, going with their body. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, if I'm not an athlete, if I don't have this physical body, then what am I? I have to always be training.
Right.
And it's like, dude, I think everybody should be healthy. You know what I mean? I definitely think like, look, if you're just a couch potato, that's not good either. But it's like, I've told people, I'm like, listen, I own Apex Vaulting. I coach every day. That's what I do, but it's what I do. It's not what I am.
For
And
sure,
if
man.
I went out of business ever, I told people, I'm like, even if I went out of business, or what if like pole vaulting ceased to exist, right? Like just track stopped, I'm like,
Mhm.
I am still me, and I can still help people. Ultimately, I like helping people. I like mentoring people. I would figure it out and find some other profession or some other path where I can still contribute and help people. I am not pole vault. You know what I mean? And although I
Yeah.
love the sport and I love the event, I really do think, one of the things I always try to explain to people, and so this is a funny story. You'll love this. Before this whole coronavirus thing was happening, I was kind of like talking to my dad, trying to help him out to get a house in Florida. And so I call up, this mortgage lending place, and I'm on the phone with the guy, and the guy's like, obviously asked like, what's your job? And I'm like, oh, I have a small business. The guy's like, what? I'm like, oh, it's a pole vault. I have a pole vaulting
Right.
club. And he's like, what? Like, I know, really? Like, that's what you do? I'm like, yeah. And I start explaining to him, like, yo, it's so much fun. I'm like, look, like a lot of times, like, you don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to work out. But it's like pole vaulting is actually a fun physical activity. And then it gets you going. It gets you excited. And then you're like, wait, I could jump higher if I do some pull-ups. Dude,
Yeah.
this guy goes, well, what would someone do if they were like 240 pounds? Could they pole vault? I'm like, I'm so glad you
Oh
asked that
man.
question. I go, I
Yeah.
have a dad that ended up pole vaulting because his son made a bet with him. He was about 240. Now he's 160. He's in great
That's
shape and won 12 feet
crazy.
last summer. And I'm like, and he was supposed to get a hip replacement, and now he doesn't need it anymore. And he's like,
Wow.
whoa. He goes, so I'm on the phone with his mortgage lender, and he's like, dude, I'm not gonna lie. I'm on Google right now, Googling pole vaulting clubs in Michigan. I'm like, well, if you ever have any pole vault questions, please contact me.
That's
It's like,
wild, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I really think pole vaulting is one of those things that can grow. I think it's such a fun activity. But at the end of the day, you are not pole vault. It's like you're this person. You have all these attributes and things that you can share with other people and be a positive member of society, regardless of whether you're pole vaulting or you're lifting weights or whatever. And I agree with you. During this time, like, I think there's a lot of people struggling where if they don't have access to a gym, they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do if I can't bench press 225? What am I
Right.
gonna do if I can't squat 300? And it's like, bro, you'll be okay. Just do what you can. Like you said,
Yeah.
stay 2-3 weeks out from being tip top and just chill a little bit.
That's just a lie. That's just a lie that a lot of people that your mind makes up, is that if I stop, then I lose all my pole vaulting powers, like,
Yeah.
and it's like, man, yeah, I told Luke, I was like, you could take 2 years off. You could take 2 years off,
Yeah.
and you could come back, and within 6 months you could be jumping exactly what you're jumping right now, if not better.
Yeah.
You really, really could. And that's what I am trying to help the kid help our athletes understand, is like, your pole vaulting powers are just not going to magically disappear.
Yeah.
Like you have put in a lot of reps, and that's why we put in those reps, because
Yeah.
your body will remember how to do it and everything. So that's just a big lie.
Well,
People can take time off, and it's fine. It's hard to adjust. It's
yeah.
hard. Like, it took
Yeah.
me a week to slow down and be like, whoa,
Yeah.
I need to pump the brakes, because I'm being a spaz right now, and my
Right.
wife and my daughters are like, dude, stop freaking out, just
Yeah.
chill, everybody's going through this, and
Yeah.
so anyway,
Well,
yeah,
well,
that's
I feel like these are important, like, kind of viewpoints and lessons for people. Cause dude, you're gonna, I don't know if you're even gonna believe me, but I'm still getting emails from parents, not from my club. Like, I don't even know where these people jump. Some people are emailing me from as far away as 2 hours. And
right.
be like, hey, are you still open? Can you do
I know.
one-on-one lessons? And I'm like, and here's the thing, like, I mean, this is almost advice for parents too, and I hope no one gets mad at me, but I just feel like it's the truth. Your kid is going to be okay if they don't pole vault right now. Like,
They will.
so many even parents are like, oh my God, like, but like, it's Johnny's junior year or Sally's junior year. Like, we got to get them ready so they get a scholarship. And it's like, first of all, how many people actually get scholarships? Like,
Yeah, right. We've talked about that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
and the other thing is, it's like, dude, if your kid is in that position where they can get a scholarship, they'll be okay with this time off. And if your
yeah.
kid's not going to get a scholarship, they're still going to be okay, because when they come back, they can enjoy the sport and have fun. But it's like I can't even understand the mentality. It's like, during this time, you want to drive 2 hours to a club you've never been, which, first of all, I probably have a completely different process than you're even used to. It's going to take how many lessons just for you to get acclimated to my thing. And it's
right.
like, for what? Because you're worried that your kid's going to, how much lower are they going to jump? 2 feet? Like, come on. Like, you're not going
Right.
to, like,
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll come back and you'll be hanging around. Let's say that an athlete takes let's just push it to 6 months. Let's say 6 months they're not able to pole vault for 6 months. I hope that's not the case, because
Yeah.
my business is going to run into some serious hurdles if we're not able to operate for 6 months.
Yeah, I hear you.
But they do that. they're going to be hovering on the first day back. They're going to be hovering around a foot lower than their personal best.
Yeah.
And then after 2 months back, they're going to be consistently jumping right around 6 inches below their personal best.
Yeah.
And at the end of 4 months back, they're going to be setting new personal bests. And
Yeah.
that's even sooner than that.
Yeah.
3 months back, 2 months back, you'll be back
So now I
like
have a
that.
great idea. You should make a post about this. Literally just
Yeah.
like, just a little like write up and just be like your expectations after, if we have 6 months off due to Corona, this is what you can expect on your way back, because I think
Yeah.
it'll calm
I'll
people
write
down.
that down.
You know what I
Yeah, right.
mean? And if you don't mind, I'll repost it.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
you know what I mean? But I think that'll help calm people, because like, just like you were explaining, your family had to calm you down because you were freaking out that first week.
Yeah,
It's like I feel like a lot of
spazzing
pole
out.
vault people have to calm down. Like, you're going to be okay, and there,
Right.
and it's like that will also prevent a lot of people from doing crazy stuff. Like, we were talking about before, like the people that are doing like secret practices and stuff. Like, it's not worth it. The cost benefit analysis. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you gaining or not losing by having this secret practice? Meanwhile, God forbid someone got sick or got another family member sick, or even just, could you imagine getting arrested because you're running a pole vault practice? I mean, like,
You might go down in history. Yeah. In pole vault club history right there,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's not as bad as what people, as far as your regression. I think it's not as bad as what people think.
yeah,
And I think that a lot of the people who are like head cases
hmm,
before this thing, I think that they need a break like this, and that it will
yeah,
actually benefit them, because they'll come back and they'll be refreshed. And then guess what? When we come back, we get to start. You have the choice. Like, I don't know. Let's say we come back in the middle of the summer.
hmm,
Uh, do you start over, or do you start, half, like from like 4 lefts, 5 lefts, like I don't know where we would do it. Like, cause there's some kids that I know that actually have pits like in their backyard that are able
hmm,
to get some work in, but I don't know. I think that's all a bunch of, uh, your brain is hyping all that up in your head and making you freak out whenever
yeah,
you really don't need to freak out. Like I told Luke, go do something that you have wanted to do for a long time, um, but haven't been able to do because you've been in your training.
yeah,
So he went and skated, because we were big skateboarders, and
yeah, yeah,
I still skate around the club all the time. Um, but he went out, did a few kick flips and just having fun,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and that's good for you. It is good
yeah.
for you. It's dumb to do that, the week before state, for sure.
Right, right.
But there are some times that you have to remind yourself, like, hey, remember, I'm just a human too,
Right.
like, and there are people don't realize that about me too, is I really love the pole vault. It's been really good to me and my family, but man, I love so many other things way more than the pole vault. It just so
Mhm.
happens that I know, me and my family, we know a good amount about it, so
Right.
like, I don't sit at my house and dwell on pole vaulting stuff. I do dwell on the business side of things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But as far as pole vaulting goes, like this has been like a chance for me to be like, you know what, I haven't been running very much, and I've always wanted to do 100 miler. And so I was like, you
Yeah,
know what? When else am I going to have a 6 month summer break? you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So I was like, when is a better time this is a great time for me to sign up for that 100 miler. So
yeah,
me and Josh, we signed up for that 100 miler in October, and get my mind off of it and have another goal that I
yeah.
work towards and stuff like that. And
Well,
I think it's important.
yeah, I think this time is good for people to realize that it's like, when your environment changes, you have to adapt and you have to figure something else out. Also, just because I don't want to run out of time and not let you mention this, you bring up your brother Josh.
Yeah.
What are you guys up to?
We are going to be starting our own little podcast deal. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's going to be called One More Jump.
Awesome. That's a great
And
name.
yeah, because that's a classic line from the Winder Boys. Uh, Come on, Dad. Hey, one more jump, one more jump. 50 jumps later. It's
Right.
like, so anyway, there's a lot of meaning behind that. And we're going to be putting it out on SoundCloud and then on iTunes and then
Okay.
on YouTube as well. So we're going to use this video platform so
Yeah.
that, this is a cool way that you can do these things. And we're going to talk about pole vaulting.
Hmm.
Um, but we're going to dive into other stuff, that we do.
Yeah.
Like obviously pole vaulting is a huge part of our lives and we know the most about pole vaulting. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
out of everything in my life, I'm pretty sure I know the most about pole vaulting.
Yeah.
Like I wish I knew some like other things as well as I feel like I know pole vaulting. But so that'll always be a part of the podcast. But at the same time, we want to interview some other people, like talk to, people that um you know just all kinds of things, basically whatever happens. And
Yeah.
hey, there might be a couple people that think it's cool, or everybody might think it's the stupidest thing they've ever seen, but
I, I, I,
we're
I
we're
feel like
we're
though
bored,
that's
man.
no, I think the biggest thing, with doing something like a podcast or even the social media and all that kind of stuff is you just listen. If you're being honest and you're giving
Yeah.
out your information, and listen, again, that's why I kind of reached out to you guys when I started doing the podcast and everything, is because your family has so much knowledge. And it was funny when I had your dad and Luke on the podcast. It was at Akron one year. It was actually when Luke, I think he broke his hand because he had the pole break.
Oh
Remember that?
yeah, that's not the best.
But we did the podcast, and listening to your dad talk, I was like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm talking to someone who's gone through very similar experiences to me, because he said the whole thing. He's like, listen, man, he goes, every summer I coach 100 kids a summer. He goes, and I think sometimes people view me as the bad guy in the pole vault world, but he's like, I've seen so many problems. I can help you solve the problems that you have. Because if you're
Yeah,
only coaching 5 kids a year, how many problems are you actually seeing?
that's a
You
good
know?
point.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
man, it's like, so the wisdom and knowledge is there. You guys actually have something to say. And, it's weird because sometimes I feel like there's certain people in the pole vault community almost that people are like, oh, like this person has good info or whatever. And it's like, I don't know if they do, because I don't know if they have the
Yeah.
experience. And
That's the biggest thing is the
yeah,
experience,
yeah,
man.
you guys
No
have the
substitute.
experience, and it's with the masses. I mean, like
Mhm.
obviously, I think you and your brothers stick out because you guys jumped so high and were so successful. But it's like you guys have coached all levels. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? All levels, and I think that's really huge. And you guys doing the podcast, I'm sure I could already see like you and your brother are probably going to hit on any kind of topic. The mental side of things, philosophy, psychology. I can see it. Maybe you guys will get a skateboarder on the podcast and talk
Hey,
about
we'll
that.
see, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
So
nice. Get Reynolds on the podcast, Andrew Reynolds.
yeah.
So the thing is though, is that like Josh he lives in Minnesota.
Mhm.
And so me and my dad and Luke all coach at the club. So they've helped us,
Mhm.
like they've helped me build the club.
Yeah.
And then it's just really sad because we have this other brother this other brother that's in Minnesota,
Yeah.
and it's like, man, I really want him to be able to be a part of this, and we've always wanted to find a way for him to be a part of what we're doing because he's so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And he's such a hard worker and he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, the other day we were talking like, hey, why don't we just we were on a Zoom call, and
Okay.
I was just like, dude, we should just hit record and then just put this up and see if anybody likes it. And
Yeah.
then we started kind of rolling with it, came up with a name. And yeah, so it's going to be Jake and Josh Winder's
Mhm.
podcast. It's not going to be Rise Athletic Club's podcast.
Yeah.
Rise might sponsor the podcast, but it's just going to be called One More Jump, and we're going to just go over a bunch of stuff and just have fun with it, man.
Yeah.
This is a time to experiment. Uh,
Okay.
and that's what we're doing, man. Big experiment. Be fun though.
But I think it's awesome because, I mean, you and I both know there's not a lot of pole vault content out there. You know what I mean? I think the people that love the pole vault content, they don't have a lot of places to go. And I think the more the merrier, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's awesome. And I think people are going to love it. I mean, listen, I think a pole vault podcast, a lot of times, like when I talk to people, it's like, okay, the pole vault community is not that big. You know, there's not like millions of people, you know?
Right.
But look, to me, even some, like, I think the on SoundCloud, I can get the numbers. I don't know about iTunes, how to get those numbers that well. I think the most listened to podcast episode might be around 1,000. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
That's
then
still pretty awesome, man.
yeah,
That's crazy. 1,000
right,
people.
yeah, and then, you know, on the low end, it'll be around 100, 150 listens, right? But here's the thing: it still connects with people, and I still get emails or DMs from people who are like, "Hey, thanks for doing that podcast episode. That really like resonated," you know, and you know, that to me is meaningful. And
For sure.
as long as you play the long game with, I think, pole vault or a small business running a club, it's like, as long as you play that long game and slowly just keep building and building, dude, you're going to be successful, you know?
And you have done an awesome job with this podcast, and somebody had to jump off and do it, you know, and you have done it, and it's really, really cool. And you're a big inspiration behind it too, is like,
Thank you.
well, can you have a pole vault podcast? Would somebody actually listen? Would one person listen to a pole vault podcast? And you've proven that people do, and it's cool. And I go on my runs and listen to your podcast, and there's a lot of ideas I've generated off of your podcast, and I don't know, you're thoughtful, you're articulate, you're good at what you do, and so it's been cool to listen to it and stuff like that. How much time we got left? I got one more question for you.
I mean, just ask the question then, you know. Go shoot, because I don't know how much time we have. It's still saying record, so hopefully this is working.
You think? Yeah. Do you know how long we've been going?
So I just checked a text message, and when I sent you the code, it was 11:21. So I don't know. We probably don't have that much time.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. You think you're getting any of those? Or you think you're getting that small business loan? Did you apply for that?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I guess for people listening who are running clubs, I applied for that emergency loan, the 10 grand.
Yeah, me too.
I haven't heard anything back yet, you know, but I definitely think anybody out there should definitely apply, you know?
Yeah, I applied too. The more people I listen to, though, the more I realize that I don't think that we're going to see any of that, which is so sad, man. It's so messed up.
I don't understand. Why aren't we going to – what have you been hearing?
It's dude, just look it up on YouTube. Like, all these people are like, you know, well, I mean, because at the beginning they were like, yeah, in 3 days, you're going to hear back from us. And then they switched it to a week. You're going to hear back from us.
Yeah.
And then they switched it to, now it just says, you will hear back from us in days. Oh, it doesn't, it just says days. It doesn't even say a number. So I thought that 3 day thing was a little bit over the top, but yeah, I mean, we applied for it, and you know, God willing, we get it, because that would really, really help us out. I don't know what your landlord ended up doing, but our landlord is helping us out by deferring payments. But the reality is that I still have to pay that money for a time that I'm not operating.
Right.
You know, so it's like I'm definitely losing a lot of money, man. You know, like,
no, and that's the thing. Like, I've been communicating a little bit with my landlord and whatever. Like, I sent a full check on April 1st. But like, if now they come out, you know, in the next week or so and say, hey, we're going till May, you know, whatever. I'm going to email my landlord. Like, I have no problem maybe, like, you know, paying the tax portion of my rent or something, but it's like, it can be crazy. Like, and like you said, a deferment in a business like a pole vaulting club, like, we're not going to make that money back. You know what I mean? We're just going to lose a season. You know what I mean? Now I could try to crunch, like, I mean, listen, I guess I've been very fancy. You know, I usually have, like, in between, like, spring and summer and fall, there's usually like a week or two off. You know what I mean?
Right.
But now maybe I can squeeze, and because all my seasons are
Yeah.
typically 10 weeks or a little bit more. So maybe I can squeeze in a, 10-week season somehow if I crunch things depending on when we get back. But yeah, you're not going to make that money back. And so even if you get your rent deferred, it's like, well, you're still paying
Yeah.
for something you didn't use.
And I don't want to seem ungrateful because like he could just be like, nah, man, you
Just
signed the
pay it right
lease,
now.
you know,
Yeah,
and the thing is like, I don't know about you, but I had to sign a personal guarantee
yeah,
on
yeah,
mine.
yeah.
Like, so it's like, it's not it's Rise Athletic Club is on the lease, but then Jake Winder and his family,
Right.
you
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah.
are the ones that it falls back on. So
Right.
it's a scary time, man. And our parents though, I mean, the parents at the club have been so supportive. They've, you know,
Yeah.
sent in encouragements, and some
Yeah.
people have even made donations, which is
Right.
really, really just outstanding. And I think that is the community that we're involved with. The pole vault community is outstanding. Um, but
I,
yeah,
I
it's strange.
I'll tell you a crazy idea, because this is something I've been thinking about. Is, look, like if this keeps going, right, and landlords are like, hey, like you got to pay, like whatever. I mean, listen, I'll just be like, well, I can't, I'm not going to. I'm gonna pick up my stuff, and then I'll
Right.
find a new location. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it,
they
it
need
just
you. They need you just as much as you need them.
right, right. Because the thing is, to me, it's like I'm not gonna pay. Like, let's say it's 6 months. I'm not gonna pay 6 months of
I
rent
know, man.
and not
I know.
operate. And that's cool. Like, listen, I get it. It's business. So if you have someone during this time period that would like to move into my space and pay, that's awesome. But I'm not, and I'm gonna take my stuff
I
out.
doubt you're gonna find anybody.
Right. Yeah. So I mean,
Well,
that's
check out this idea. Okay, so this was an idea that I thought about. Okay, so you re you reopen the lease negotiation, and so you uh what do you call it? You make an amendment to the lease,
mhm,
and you say and you extend this current lease out to, you know, let's say 15 months instead of 12 months.
mhm.
And then you, during this time, you know, that you're off, you don't pay, but your lease just goes for longer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they're still getting their the money that you signed for. They're still
Right.
getting the money, but you're just, what they're doing is they're providing you with just time. You know, so
Right.
instead of a 12-month lease, we're going to extend it to a 15-month lease, and
Right.
during these, let's say 3 months that you're not
Right.
operating, you don't have to pay anything,
Yeah.
you know.
So
And then you, at the end of that lease, then you negotiate, you
yeah,
know,
I think
whatever it is.
the only thing, and I don't know if everybody understands this idea of it, but I even have a friend who lives in a fairly new apartment complex. It's really fancy, and they've been sending emails out. I mean, he's been paying his rent. He's just working from home. He's a computer programmer, but
Yeah.
like he's like, a lot of people aren't paying rent because they don't have work right now, and they're like, we need you to pay rent. Because the thing that people don't realize about a lot of landlords is they're taking mortgages out themselves when they're
Right,
creating new
right.
property, new buildings, whatever. And so they have to pay their mortgage at the end of the month. And if they're not getting their rent, now they can't pay, which,
Right, but there are a lot of banks right now that are allowing, like the guy next door to me, he has a mortgage out on his spot, and the bank is not requiring him to pay anything onto his principal right now. So he is responsible for interest and taxes. So
okay,
then my if my landlord does own my space, then I think that that plan that I said
yeah,
earlier is fine because
right,
they're not losing money.
right,
Um, but if they don't own it and they're paying a mortgage on it, if their bank will allow them to not pay on the principal, just pay
right,
taxes and interest, I'll cover the taxes and interest
right,
during that
yeah,
time, you know,
yeah.
which I think makes sense, you know. But I am, like I said, I know pole vaulting a lot more than I know than I know any of this other stuff.
Yeah, but for anybody out there that's in our situations, I mean, these are things that you can hopefully get some ideas out of and
Yeah.
know how to talk to a landlord. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and like you said, just be real and be
Yeah,
honest and be personable and say, "Hey, I realize that you're in a bad spot, I'm in a bad spot, is there any wiggle room, and like I said, I'm very thankful that they are deferring my payments.
Yeah.
But when we start back up, are we going to get as many kids? Because, maybe, this mom or dad, has got, lost their job or this or that.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too. And it's not because, I'm worried about us making money, because I don't even take money right now, because
Yeah.
I'm a teacher. I just reinvest the money into the club right now.
Right.
But the reality is that we still have a rent to pay. And if it's deferred,
Right.
then what are we just gonna do? Like pay like, double rent for the
Right.
last for the last 3 months of
Right.
our lease or whatever? Like that's a lot, and it'll be very, very interesting to see, what happens in the end with this whole thing.
Yeah. I think too. It's like it, it's just one of those things too. I worry about even when things go back to normal. You know, are are some people going to be scared to do something like go to a pole vaulting club or a gym?
Right. Yeah, for
And
sure.
I think it's going to take time. Just like, we were kind of joking around before about like, we didn't want to wear a mask, right? We were being self-conscious and like, I don't know if I look good in this. It's like, well, people are going to get accustomed to masks and gloves and not going out in public. And they're like, well, is it okay now? Should I go out? And I think there's going to be a little bit of a period there where it's kind of like getting acclimated to going out again.
Yeah, and I've thought about, well, just jump with a mask, or, and I got one of them forehead thermometers, you
Oh,
know.
really? Yeah. Yeah.
I just ordered one because I was like, hey, maybe it's gonna get to that point. And then if it does get to that point where you're required to take a thermometer temperature at the door, those thermometers are gonna be flying off the shelves. So I was
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm, getting my little doomsday prepper on, and buying something that super random.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll it'll be interesting. But what we're gonna do is, so like we're on a monthly subscription.
Hmm.
So they're on auto pays,
Yeah.
and so we suspend the auto
Yeah.
pay, and then whatever, let's say that they paid on the 8th, and then they had the 16th,
Mm.
that's when we closed.
Yeah.
They still have a lot of credit left over. So then we credit that to their account. And then when we come back, they can use that credit to purchase personal lessons. And I think we're going to like dip our toes back in with personal lessons.
Yeah.
And luckily we've got, 3, 4 coaches, which I think this would be a good time to announce that we hired Melissa Gergel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
which is outstanding, man. She just started right whenever we just basically closed. She did 2 like shadowing days,
Okay.
and so now we have her though, who's going to be coaching with us, and she's outstanding. I mean,
For
uh
people that
two
don't know,
two
give
time
a little
two
bit background.
time yeah, 2-time Olympic trials qualifier, 15 or 14 11
Okay.
personal best 14 11, so we're going to round that up to 15. And then she's Illinois state champion,
Hmm.
jumped 13 plus in high school. This is all off the top of my head. It's
Yeah.
She's got a lot of credentials.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
and then she hasn't missed a US outdoor championship since like 2009. She was a
Wow.
NCAA Division I national champion for the
Yeah.
University of Oregon, um, Pac-10 champion, just a champion in general.
Yeah. 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 No.
she's and
Awesome.
she's and with that being said, she's super nice, down to earth, amazing with the kids, works really hard though, and really understands a lot of what's going on. And she's the first like person. It's weird when you hire somebody outside of our family,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because we do have a system, like it's called the
Right.
rise level system.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so and the first thing she said is, she was like, hey, do you have this written down, like, because I want to study it. And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh my gosh. I was like,
Awesome.
right then and there, I knew that she was going to be an awesome fit. So we're very, very thankful that she's going to be able to do this. But actually, she's a physician's assistant. So
Okay.
she's working in the hospital right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, hopefully I keep checking in with her to make sure she's doing okay. And but whenever we do get back, she is going to be an incredible, incredible addition
Yeah.
to our club. A female pole vaulter, a 14-11
Yeah.
female pole vaulter, you know, Olympic trials qualifier, just an incredible opportunity for the young
Yeah.
ladies at our club and these young gentlemen too. We only got 2 guys at the club right now that's got or 3 guys, no, 4 guys that have a PR better than hers. So
Yeah.
these guys can learn a lot from her too, man. I'm
Well,
learning a lot from
I
her.
just I'm glad to hear that, she's coaching, because I wish more pole vaulters went into coaching. I just feel like for
Yeah,
some reason, a lot of people, they end up jumping and they just leave the sport, like, never to be seen again. And I think, people need to realize coaching is a great way to stay involved in the sport, give back, still enjoy it. You know what I mean? Um, I don't know. I feel like coaching is a big answer for a lot of people in the sport. Like, I think we may have touched upon this the first time you're on the podcast, but it's like, sometimes when you're just jumping, you think if you jump high enough or you win this meet, then like you could make a living off of pole vaulting. But it's like what people don't realize, like,
no,
you could eventually, actually make some money coaching, doing what you
right.
love and growing the sport. And that's what I think is beautiful. And that's kind of the answer for a lot of people. And I think I'm starting to see some of these groups, like these training groups that are starting to coach and start their own clubs, which I'm like, this is awesome. This is the way the club scene will grow, but the sport will grow, and it'll give more opportunities to people.
Yeah, she's the funny thing is we were talking, me and my dad were talking, just because right before we went on this break, we were, starting to increase, like our enrollment was going up quite a bit.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, we gotta get some other coaches in here because my dad's a teacher and
Yeah.
I'm a teacher
Yeah.
and so we got other stuff going on and Melissa popped up in our conversation and my dad was like, man, what's Melissa Gergel doing? And I was like, oh my gosh, she would be perfect. She
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
outstanding, to be a part of this. And like 3 days later, she sent me a direct message and was like, hey, I'm moving back to Chicago. I've been following your club on Instagram and, I would like to be involved if there's a spot. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, whatever you need, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
whatever we need to do to get you over here. And she's, yeah, so it was kind of sad, that I still haven't like officially, I guess right now is my official announcement that she's she's
Yeah.
coaching with us. But yeah, so I'm so excited about that. But anyway, yeah, so we got 4 coaches now, and then we got another coach, another incredible coach that helped us open this, helped me open the club, Andy Drendel from Canelan High School, who is an
Okay.
outstanding pole vault coach. And so he hopefully is going to come back this summer and help us
Awesome.
out. And just a bunch of, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting all excited and this whole thing, man.
Yeah.
It's out of. Are we past the 40-minute mark? Because
I,
I feel
I,
like we've blown past it, man.
yeah, yeah, but it says it's still recording. But hey, so this is probably a good moment. We should probably just end it just to make sure,
Yeah.
that we don't go over it or whatever.
Oh,
But yeah, as always, like, thank you. This has been a great episode. I think a lot of information that can help a lot of people out there right now, especially dealing with this situation. Um, how can people follow you again?
yeah. So we're on. I mean, I run our social media, and I
Yeah,
am not good at social
yeah, that,
media. So
that's
so
fine.
we're on Instagram, rise_athletic_club, and Yeah, and just be looking out on there for that's like I post on Instagram and then it like automatically posts it to Twitter
Facebook.
and Facebook or whatever.
Mhm.
And then so on there on Instagram is when we're going to make that announcement when we get that first podcast episode out. And I think that that is going to be a way because I've been battling and battling. How can I support these kids? How can I support these kids? I don't want to give them rinky dinky stuff that really isn't going
Yeah.
to, make a big difference. And I was like, you know what? Talking and the mental side and we can do a lot through this platform, and I think that this is how we're going to get content out to kids during this time is through that podcast, and then I'll post up some stuff on Instagram and stuff, but
Yeah. I
yeah, so Instagram would be the best, and then One More Jump podcast with Jake and Josh Winder coming soon, coming right at you.
All right, awesome. And then for everybody listening, at The Real Apex Vaulting on Instagram, we're Apex Vaulting on Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok. And if you have any comments or questions, just email us at apexvaulting@gmail.com. And Jake, thanks for joining. And
Hey, thank you.
thanks for everybody for listening.